You know, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. We spend, what, a third of our lives in this world we just don't understand, the world of our dreams. So today, we're going to talk about the one guy who actually dared to draw a map of that bizarre nocturnal territory, the one and only Sigmund Freud. Oh yeah, you've definitely been there. We all have, right? You wake up, maybe your heart's pounding, and you're just thinking, what in the world was that about? Well, you're not the first person to ask that question. It's a question that has stumped people for centuries. But one man, he decided to make it his life's work. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're talking late 19th century Europe, and on the surface, everything is booming. I mean, you've got steam engines, electricity, this feeling of just boundless optimism. But underneath all that shiny progress, something strange was happening. A shadow was growing. There was this weird epidemic of, well, illnesses of the mind. Things like anxiety, sudden paralysis, crippling fears, with absolutely no physical cause. And right in the middle of all this, in Vienna, that's where we meet our hero. See, while most doctors were just shrugging these patients off, calling them fakers or, hysterics, this one young, super ambitious doctor saw something else. He saw a real mystery. His name was Sigmund Freud, and he was absolutely determined to crack this thing open. Not just to help people, mind you, but also to make a name for himself in a world that wasn't always very kind to him. But here's the thing, Freud's drive wasn't just about pure science. This guy had a real hungry spirit. For one, he faced a lot of anti-Semitism, which really limited his career options. On top of that, as the oldest son, he was under huge pressure to support his family. And all of that pressure, that struggle, it pushed him. It pushed him to look where nobody else was even thinking of looking, deep into the dark, hidden corners of the human mind. So this quest of his, it eventually takes him to Paris. He goes to study under this legendary neurologist, Dr. Jean-Martin Charcot. They called him the Napoleon of science, no big deal. And what Freud saw there, well, let's just say it was going to change the course of psychology forever. Picture this, a packed lecture hall. Charcot puts a patient under hypnosis, and while this woman is completely out of it, totally unconscious, Charcot just talks to her, and her symptoms, her paralysis, they would appear and disappear just on his command. Freud was just floored, stunned. I mean, how could her mind be responding to words if her conscious, rational brain was totally asleep? It just had to mean one thing. There had to be another part of the mind, a second mind, if you will, hidden away, operating completely beneath our awareness. And this is what Freud would call the unconscious. Now, you have to get how absolutely radical this was. Back then, the mind was just the stuff you were aware of, your thoughts, your reason. Everything else, just meaningless noise. So for Freud to come along and say, hey, not only is there this hidden world, but it's not chaos at all. In fact, it has its own rules, its own logic, and it holds the key to everything. I mean, that was completely earth-shattering. So armed with this revolutionary new idea, Freud heads back to Vienna. And at first, he tries using hypnosis, just like his mentor Charcot. But he pretty quickly realized, you know what? He didn't need it. He figured out that if he just built a real sense of trust with his patients, they would just talk. And so he developed his own totally unique method to help them do just that. He called it free association. And the setup is now legendary, right? He'd have his patients get comfortable on that famous couch of his, relax, and just say whatever popped into their head. No filter, no rules, no matter how silly or strange it seemed. He had this incredible insight that the master key to unlocking the unconscious wasn't some fancy scientific procedure like hypnosis. Nope, it was the most basic human thing in the world. Just talking. And as he sat there, just listening, something really unexpected started to happen. A pattern emerged. Again and again and again. His patients, they'd start talking about their dreams. And Freud realized, wait a minute, this can't be a coincidence. These dreams weren't just random static. They were something else. They were like coded messages bubbling up from the deepest parts of the unconscious. Well, that was it. Freud became obsessed. He spent years meticulously collecting, analyzing, and decoding dreams. Not just his patients' dreams, but his own too. And in the year 1900, he finally published what he considered his masterpiece, the big one, The Interpretation of Dreams. And he truly believed it was his most important discovery ever. And Freud, he wasn't shy about the importance of this work. He actually placed it right up there with some of the biggest scientific revolutions in history. He argued that humanity's ego, our collective pride, had been dealt 3 major blows. First, you had Copernicus, who told us, sorry, you're not the center of the universe. Ouch. Then came Darwin, who told us, hey, you're not so special, you're part of the animal kingdom. Double ouch. And now, Freud delivered what he saw as the third, and maybe the most personal shock of all. Guess what? You're not even the master of your own mind. The real boss in your head? It's your unconscious. So with a bombshell claim like that, you'd think this book would fly off the shelves, right? An instant bestseller? Not even close. Get this. In its first 6 years, the interpretation of dreams sold a grand total of 351 copies. 351. It took 8 full years just to sell the first printing of 600 books. It just goes to show you, the world was absolutely not ready for what Freud had to say. So what was it? What was the big secret hidden inside this book that practically nobody was buying? What was the code to our dreams that Freud had supposedly cracked? Well, it was an idea that was, at its core, breathtakingly simple and unbelievably powerful. Here it is, every single dream, Freud argued, is a wish fulfillment. That's it, that's the whole key. From the scariest nightmares that wake you up in a cold sweat to the most random, nonsensical dreams you can't even explain. At its heart, every single one is your unconscious mind serving up something you secretly desire, even if it's in a really weird disguise. And to prove his point, Freud did something incredibly bold. He put his own mind on the operating table, so to speak. He used one of his very own dreams as the main case study in the book, a now famous dream known as Irma's injection. Okay, so how does this actually work? Let's break it down. On the surface, the dream seemed to be about one of his patients, a woman named Irma, whose treatment wasn't going so well. In the dream, Freud manages to prove that her illness isn't his fault. So wish number 1, I wish I could get out of being responsible for this. But then you dig deeper. Other doctors show up in the dream, and they're all based on his real-life rivals, and they just mess everything up. And that reveals the second, much pettier wish. I wish I could get some revenge on my competitors and see them fail. But, and this is super important, Freud was adamant that this was not like some cheesy fortune teller's dream dictionary, where a snake always means betrayal or whatever. No, the whole point of his method was to guide the dreamer using free association to find the truth that was their truth, unique to them. The goal was for them to have that aha moment where they realize, oh, that's what I was really feeling. And by doing that, Freud gave us something huge. He didn't just hand us a tool to understand what happens when we're asleep. He gave us a whole new lens to understand our entire waking lives too. And you have to appreciate the incredible intellectual bravery here. I mean, in this book, he just lays his own soul bare for the world to see. He analyzes his own grief, his ambitions, his really complicated feelings about his own father's death. He literally made himself the primary test subject to prove that his theory applied to everyone. And really, that's his ultimate legacy. Look, whether you think the guy was a genius or a total charlatan, and people still argue about it today, you can't deny this. Sigmund Freud fundamentally changed the way we think about ourselves. He handed us the language, he gave us the first map to that hidden continent we all carry around inside of us, that vast, mysterious, and incredibly powerful world of the unconscious. And that's a door that, once it's been opened, can never really be shut again. So it leaves us with a final thought, a question to take with you into your own nights. The next time you wake up from some crazy, vivid dream, just ask yourself, what is your unconscious trying to tell you?
どうも、今回の解説へようこそ。さあ、今夜あなたが見る夢が実は何を意味しているのか、その謎を解き明かす旅に一緒に出かけてみましょう。いやー、ありますよね。なんであんな夢見たんだろうって思うこと。なんかすごく奇妙だったり、時にはちょっと気まずい夢だったり。今日はその夢の謎に挑んで解き明かした一人の男の物語です。さあ、物語の舞台は19世紀の終わり、ウィーンです。当時のヨーロッパってすごく活気に満ちていた時代なんですけど、その一方で原因がよくわからない不安とか体の不調、つまり今でいう心の病に苦しむ人が実はすごく増えていたんです。そこで登場するのが今回の主役、ジークムント・フロイトです。まあフロイドっていうとなんか白髪のおじいさんのイメージが強いかもしれないですけど、この時点の彼は全然違う。家族を養わなきゃっていうプレッシャーと、絶対成功してやるっていうものすごい野心を胸に秘めたハングリーな若者だったんです。まずはそんな彼から見ていきましょう。
さあ、ここからフロイトの運命が大きく動き始めます。彼は当時ですね、科学界のナポレオンなんか呼ばれていた超有名な医者シャルコーの下で学ぶためにフランスのパリへと向かうんです。
そしてそこで彼が目にしたのはもう本当に衝撃的な光景でした。シャルコーが患者さんを催眠術で眠らせて言葉をかけるだけ、たったそれだけで腕が動かなくなったり逆に麻痺が治ったりする。意識がないはずなのにですよ。これにはフロイトも度肝を抜かれます。
この瞬間、フロイトの頭に電撃が走ります。待てよ、意識とは別にもう一つの心が働いているに違いないと。これが彼のいわゆるアハ体験。そう、意識の外側にもう一つ別の広大な世界があるんじゃないかっていう革命的なアイデアが生まれた瞬間でした。
いや、これって当時としては本当にすごい発見だったんですよ。だってそれまでの常識では心っていうのは自分が意識できること、つまり理性だけだって思われてたんですから。でもフロイトはいや違うんだと。僕らが普段意識していることの外側にもっと広大でめちゃくちゃパワフルな無意識っていう領域が隠れてるんだって言ったわけです。
フロイトが無意識と名付けたこの未知の領域。彼は確信します。あの原因不明だった心の病の本当の理由。それはこの誰も気づいていない心の奥底にこそ隠されているんだと。
さて、ウィーンに帰ってきたフロイトですが、だんだん催眠術だけじゃ限界があるんじゃないかって感じ始めるんですね。そこで彼は自分だけのオリジナルな方法を探求していくことになります。
そしてここで登場するのがあの有名なネイス、カウチですね。そして自由連方法というテクニックです。これは何かというと、患者さんにネイスにリラックスして横になってもらって、もうルールとか一切なしで心に浮かんだことをひたすら自由に話してもらう。フロイトはこの言葉こそが無意識にアクセスするための唯一の鍵なんだって考えたんです。
そしたらですね、すっごく面白いパターンが見えてきたんです。自由連想法をやっている患者さんたちがみんな決まって自分の夢の話をし始めるんですよ。最初は偶然かと思ったフロイトもさすがに気づきます。待てよ、これもしかしてこの夢こそがあの無意識からのメッセージなんじゃないかって。
そして運命の1900年、彼の長年の研究がついに一冊の本にまとまります。それがかの有名な夢判断。でもこれはただの本じゃなかった。それまでの人間の自分自身に対する考え方をこねごそきひっくり返すようなとんでもない爆弾だったんです。
フロイト自身が自分の発見をこう位置づけてるんですね。人類はそのプライドを3回打ち砕かれたと。1回目はコペルニクス、地球は宇宙の中心じゃないよって。2回目はダーウィン、人間は特別な生き物じゃないよ、動物だよって。そして3回目は俺だと。フロイトが突きつけたのは、君は君自身の心の主人ですらないんだよっていう最もパーソナルで最も痛い衝撃だったわけです。そりゃ自分の理性を信じていた当時の人々からしたらたまったもんじゃないですよね。
で、この351っていう数字、なんだと思います？これ、夢判断が出版されてから最初の6年間で売れた冊数なんです。たったの351冊。初版の600部が売り切れるのに8年もかかったんですよ。いかに彼の考えが時代の遥か先を行っていたかわかりますよね。
じゃあその時代が追いつけなかった本、夢判断が明らかにした夢の真実って一体何だったんでしょうか。いよいよこの解説の核心に迫っていきましょう。フロイトの答えは驚くほどシンプルでした。それがこれです。すべての夢は願望が満たされることである。どういうことかというと、あなたが見る夢はどんなに変な夢でも全部あなたの心の奥底に隠されたこうだったらいいのになっていう本当の願いが形を変えて出てきたものなんだっていうことなんです。
でも口で言うのは簡単ですよね。で、これを証明するためにフロイトが取った方法がめちゃくちゃ大胆だった。なんと自分自身の夢をみんなの前で分析してみせたんです。それが精神分析の歴史の中でも特に有名なイルマの注射の夢です。
この夢、表面的にはフロイトが患者のイルマを見て、
彼女の病気は僕のせいじゃないなって自分を正当化するストーリーなんです。でもその裏に隠されていた本当の願望はもっとドロドロしてました。一つは治療がうまくいかなかった責任から逃れたいっていう免罪の願望。そしてもう一つがあいつら気に食わない同僚たちに一幅吹かせてやりたいっていう、はっきり言ってかなり姑息な復讐の願望だったんです。
ここでめちゃくちゃ大事なことを言いますね。フロイトのやったことっていわゆる夢占いとは全然全く違うんです。夢占いが答えを外に求めるのに対して、フロイトの夢分析は自分自身の内側にある本当の姿を映し出すためのいわば鏡だったんです。そしてフロイトが本当にすごかったのは、自分自身の心をそれこそ丸裸にして、その中にある弱さとか憎さとかも全部分析のテーブルに載せたことだと思うんです。そうやって自分の心を探求することで、彼は僕たちに教えてくれた。無意識っていうのは何か特別なものじゃなくて、僕ら一人一人の中にある広大で探求できる内なる宇宙なんだってことを。
フロイトが開けてくれた自分自身の心への扉。それは今も僕たちの目の前にあります。この話がその扉にちょっとだけ手をかけるきっかけになったら嬉しいです。さあ、今夜もし夢を見たら少しだけ思い出してみてください。あなたの無意識はあなたに一体何を伝えようとしているんでしょうか。